was a radio journalist for several Wisconsin radio stations in north central Wisconsin. He was even a news anchor for WEAU-TV Channel 13 in Eau Claire. He was, in 2006, Pat was elected to the state senate and worked diligently on 6 of these things that I got off his website today: campaign finance reform, closing corporation tax loopholes, expanding health care coverage, revising funding formulas to give more help to rural schools, and championing new energy jobs and helping entrepreneurs. Enough said. I have the distinct pleasure of introducing the next 7th CD Congressman, Pat Crapo.
To post the colors for us. I saw him coming by. That was great. Thank you. And then the Boy Scout in me suddenly remembered, oh wait, the flag's got to be on its own right. So I did a little house cleaning here. If it falls, it's, well, we're in a lumbering area. So, you know, we'll just say timber. There we go.
I did, but Candy put me up to it. So.
No, that was wonderful. I normally do not have a problem talking too quietly thanks to that broadcaster training, so you'll be fine in the back. Instead of asking, can you hear me in the back, I'll be asking, am I hurting you in the front? And if so, just say the word. A lot of folks are still finding out about me, but they're also finding out about the 7th Congressional District and where it is, because where you thought it was, it ain't going to be much longer. Thanks to some mischief that was done by Sean Duffy and Paul Ryan and others who are trying to protect their advantage in the Wisconsin congressional delegation. Now, I was told that when they added some or all of the rest of Vilas and Oneida, Lincoln, Langlade, Forest, and Florence counties, that when they added all that area, that there were going to be so few Democrats in there. Well, folks, in this room, there's already more Democrats than what they told me there was in these 6 counties. I think you're going to find even more Democrats in these counties, and even more people who, even if they aren't Democrats, they're sick of this train wreck of a Congress and are going to help us make a change next year. Don't you think so? The problem for the longest time as we waited for redistricting to be done was that we weren't sure, you know, especially a guy like me in southern Chippewa County. I live on the northern end of Lake Wissota, just north of Chippewa Falls, and they weren't sure if I was going to be in Sean Duffy's 7th district or in Ron Kine's 3rd district, and as it turns out, they were both wrong. I actually technically shouldn't be running for this seat at all. The Republicans engaged in so much mischief in redistricting that actually this part is now in Michelle Bachmann's district. These are the kind of shenanigans they play. Although I'm not surprised that they would take Michelle Bachmann and extend it east like that in such a weird way. Clearly, they must have done the same thing with Sean Duffy's district. Why else would he represent Wall Street like he does if it doesn't stretch all the way out there? That's apparently where the 7th district goes. That's where his votes have been. I would not be surprised if some of his supporters, for their campaign slogan, say, we are the 1%, because that's the group that he seems to be fighting most for, as I'll talk about in just a little bit here. But let me back up a bit first as I'm introducing not just the new congressional district to people, but myself as well. So I hope you'll excuse a moment of biographic references on what I've done to get myself into this wonderful place, or this wonderful pickle, depending on your point of view, in the first place. Prior to being in the legislature, I was a reporter for several radio stations, and then eventually became a news anchor at Channel 13 in Eau Claire, the NBC station out there. I anchored the 6 and 10 News for many years, delivering stories about people, what they do, talking to their elected leaders, and telling stories about how they are or are not working for the people who voted them into office. Sometime after the 2004 elections, which were a real punch to the gut to a lot of you folks here, I had said to myself, I can't sit silently behind this anchor desk anymore and pretend to have any lack of bias about what is going on in this country. So I left my really nice job in 2005 that I thought I would do forever, because I wanted to make more of a difference in what was going on in public service. And so in 2006, I ran for legislature and defeated a guy some of you remember by the name of Dave Zine, and sent him packing from the Wisconsin legislature. So if I do nothing else, I have done that and have served 4 good years in the legislature doing some of the things that I'm glad somebody saw on my website, which, shameless plug here, you can read about on the website as well at kreitloforcongress.com. Prior to my work at TV13, I grew up in both Eau Claire and St. Paul. My parents were in both those cities, so both were hometowns for me. And then I went to UW Eau Claire, married myself a good Wisconsin farm girl from Manitowoc County. Sherry and I have been married for 25 years. She's an OBGYN with the Marshfield Clinic in Chippewa Falls. We have 2 daughters who, in a couple of weeks here, are going to turn 21 and 23, and I have a 5-year-old grandson. So I have a lot of good motivations, going from a mom and 2 sisters to a wife and 2 daughters. They used to say I was God's gift to women. Now I finally have this grandson that I get to chase around the house, and I want to make sure now that he's getting set to start kindergarten pretty soon, that we keep the promises that were kept to us for years in terms of going to school, working hard, having a retirement with dignity and security, and being able to leave a legacy for the next generation to have all these things. Because we believe in certain values in this state that the Tea Party Republicans have taken this country far from. We believe in work, we believe in opportunity, we believe in our liberties, and we believe in service. These things have served us well, and they can build a future if we stay true to them. But the Tea Party Republicans have not been interested in these things. Let's start with work. We love working hard here. We all do. We're a state of workers. We are a nation of workers. But as we have been reminded in recent times, as long as there are people who work, there will be people who want to take advantage of those who work, to use them, to abuse them, to see them as nothing more but chattel or a line on a spreadsheet, and not the asset, but the overhead. And so they put downward pressure on their wages, try to take away their rights, all in the name of making a buck for something closer to global corporate profit than American prosperity. It is time that we reassert in this country that work comes first, work should be respected, and work should lead to a retirement of security and dignity. You can't do that if you're taking away rights while you're at work, like Scott Walker wants to do, or taking away your retirement health care in the form of Medicare, like Sean Duffy wants to do when he voted for the Paul Ryan plan. So work is a value we've got to reestablish in the state, and we're seeing. The second value that I talked about is opportunity. Work without opportunity is enslavement, if you want it to be. There are plenty of countries out there where somebody goes to work at one job and does nothing but that job. Not because it's their choice, but because there is nothing else. There is no hope for better pay, no hope for a better job, no hope for a promotion, no hope for advancement. There's no opportunity. In this country, we have always embraced the concept that if you want to study hard enough to get that first job, or work hard enough to get a better job, or a better pay grade, or some other opportunity out there, it's available to you. But the Tea Party Republicans have taken opportunity away. You can't have opportunity for a better job when those jobs are being outsourced, and they're protecting the people who are doing the outsourcing with better treatment in the tax code. And you can't have opportunity for a better job if education and retraining are treated as budget fat. Let me tell you something. Education has never been and never will be budget fat. It is how we build a future in this country. The third of those 4 values I want to talk about is simply liberty. People have rights. You have rights not just as workers, but you have rights as consumers, as taxpayers, and as voters. But the GOP, as I mentioned, wants to slash your rights while you're at work, take away your health care security when you retire from work. They've been working to gut consumer and environmental protections, make you pay more in taxes than millionaires, billionaires, and corporations, and make it more difficult for you to vote. Your liberty matters. I know it's one of those words we don't hear a lot except on right-wing talk radio. We're taking that word back because we've learned this year if we don't stand up for and protect our liberties, they can be taken away. And it's a fight worth having over the course of the coming year. And the final thing I want to talk about is service. our work ethic in this country is so strong and our values are so solid that a lot of times we're not content with just putting in a day's work for ourselves. We actually do want to work for other people. We want to serve other people. We want to give something back because we understand that our individual talents alone, however good they may be, do not make us complete, and they do not make our country complete. Our country works best when we work together to serve each other, and that is certainly not happening in Washington, D.C. right now. Now, this country, for the better part of 200 years, give or take some civil wars and things, has found ways to work together, to bridge our differences, to broker the deals that lead to incremental progress, because progress is always inherently a good thing. Until now, when we have a group that is so against progress, so against moving forward, that they will embrace gridlock, that they will obstruct anything that's out there. A my way or the highway approach that is the complete opposite of service. We expect a government that works as hard as we do, that provides opportunity, that guarantees our liberty, and is true public service and not just politics. We've lost that in Washington. They have lost their way, and we will help them get back on the right track by replacing those people who do not embrace the values that we hold dear in Wisconsin. Demonstrating that in many different ways. First off, of course, he's done more than just vote for the Paul Ryan budget that dismantled Medicare and protected millionaire tax breaks. He's done more than break that promise early on that he would not vote to repeal health care reform unless there were a replacement Republican bill ready to go. He did more than just demonstrate that he doesn't understand the struggles of northern Wisconsin families when he talked about how tough it is to make it on $174,000.
Jesus Christ.
Excuse me a moment. He hasn't just gone Hollywood. He's gone Washington. And to me, what really demonstrated it was the first week in May, right about the time I announced I was running. You would think that maybe he would try to take it easy, but no, like his buddies in Madison, it was full steam ahead. First week in May, on a Tuesday, he voted with the health insurance companies by repealing a part of health care reform. On the Wednesday of that week, he voted with the Wall Street banks, who want to roll back the rules and the protections that are meant to keep those banks from crashing the economy ever again. And on the Thursday of that week, he voted with the oil companies to try to gut some of the environmental regulations that have kept our waters pristine. So this was one work week for a guy that does not embrace the values that we expect of congressional leaders from northern Wisconsin. So what do we do about this? We can't turn all of Congress around. That's a tall order. And you don't. You do it one step at a time, one seat at a time, one race at a time. This is one of those races. We need 25 seats to take back the House of Representatives. 25 targeted seats can make the difference. The Democratic Congressional Campaign Committee has put me on their top 25 list of targeted candidates nationwide. It was nice to have that attention, but it would be nice if we could get a little press attention as well. Well, that's where it was a thrill to see that the Washington political magazine Politico put me on their top 10 list of races to watch in the coming year. So again, we know we've got some attention here. They know that we have a strong challenge that we can mount and a weak incumbent. And they know that because of the votes he's taken. I mean, come on, I grew up, long before there was the TV lights and the nice job, I grew up the oldest of 4 kids to a single mom who got off welfare eventually by working third shift at a truck stop, waiting tables. Once I was old enough to watch my younger siblings. One of those younger siblings was my little brother, who fought illness all of his life. He died when he was 9. I was 14. I have seen how Medicaid is literally a lifeline for families that don't ask for health issues. They're just there. And yet Sean Duffy's voting record treats Medicaid as if struggling families are some kind of freeloaders. I broke our family cycle of poverty by going to college, first in my family, thanks to Pell Grants. And yet, Sean Duffy's voting record treats Pell Grants like the rest of the education fat that he's looking to trim from the budget. And while I didn't grow up with my dad, I am so proud of his lifetime of service in the Army, National Guard, and Reserve. He spent the late 60s on the border patrol between East and West Germany. And now he's watching as Duffy's votes have slashed resources for veterans who are looking for health care, jobs, legal assistance, even a home. And so take these things and take our stories, my story as a candidate, your stories of what you expect in a congressman, and we show our neighbors why we can say to the Tea Party crowd out there, we've seen enough. Thank you. We're ready to go back to somebody who represented this district the way that Dave Owie did for about 42 years. Never forgetting his roots. Never forgetting it's about people and their stories and their expectations of what Congress can do for them. So we're going to do that together. We're going to talk to our friends and neighbors like adults. We're going to run a grown-up campaign here that lays out the case for what they're doing wrong and what we're doing right. We know that they have resentments and frustrations. We're going to address them. But we're also going to confront any of the misinformation, the exaggerations, and the lies that are going on out there. Because if we do that, that's being honest with our neighbors and our friends, and it wins those independent voters we're going to need. And you're going to hear about that a lot in terms of the independent voters. You may call them independent, you may call them, not as plugged in as you are, whatever the case may be. It is so critical that we get our base out, and God bless the base. It's great being here in the choir loft, but we can't preach in the choir loft all day. There's about 40% of us, and there's about 40% of them, and there's that other 20% that are independent, or they just really don't pay attention to these issues until late in the campaign, or they rarely vote, or they never vote, and we've got to get to them and help them see that we don't just talk a good game about what they're doing wrong, but we will talk about our values, what we're doing right, what we can do right, because we love this place. We love this country. We love this state. And folks, growing up, we used to like our government too. We really did. There's a lot of we've always made jokes about Congress and our government and what have you, but we've always at heart had a love for what our type of democracy could do for people to make our country a little bit better. We can bring that love, that love of service back out to people, but only if we're willing to get involved, only if we're willing to do the work, only if we're willing to donate the dollars and donate the time and make sure that all of the next coming elections, not just the gubernatorial recall, but this election, the senatorial election, the next round of legislative elections, bring to us people who have that same love of service, that same love of country, and that same desire for a brighter future I know we can have if we're willing to do the work. And I know you are. Thank you very much, everybody.